Akhenaten and Tutankhamun. Egypt's greatest religious revolution for nearly 2,000 years. The gods of Egypt had remained unchanged. Ra ruled the sun, Osiris governed the afterlife, Isis protected families, Horus watched over kings. Ammon had become the most powerful god in the land, worshipped in magnificent temples that stretched across Egypt. Their priests possessed enormous wealth. Their influence rivaled even the pharaoh himself. Then one king attempted the impossible. He tried to replace every god Egypt had ever known. His name was Amenhotep IV. He inherited one of the richest empires in the ancient world. Egypt controlled vast territories. Its armies were victorious. Its treasury overflowed with gold. Massive temples dominated every major city. Yet Amenhotep believed something was wrong. The old religion had become too powerful. The priests of Ammon controlled unimaginable wealth. Some historians believe the young king feared they threatened royal authority itself. Others believe he experienced a genuine spiritual revelation. Whatever his motives, history would never be the same. Around 1353 BC, Amenhotep IV announced a revolution unlike anything Egypt had ever witnessed. He rejected the traditional gods. Instead, he declared that one deity stood above all others. The Aten, represented not as a human or animal, but as the radiant disk of the sun. Its rays stretched toward humanity, ending in tiny hands that offered the gift of life. Soon afterward, the king changed his own name. He became Akhenaten, the one who is effective for Aten. Temples dedicated to Ammon were closed, their wealth confiscated. Priests lost much of their influence. The names of ancient gods were erased from monuments. Even the word gods sometimes disappeared from official inscriptions. Across Egypt, craftsmen carved away centuries of religious history. Never before had a pharaoh attempted to rewrite the spiritual identity of an entire civilization. Akhenaten did something even more extraordinary. He abandoned Egypt's traditional capital. Instead, he ordered the construction of an entirely new city in the desert. Its name was Akhenaten, Horizon of the Aten. Known today as Amarna, the city rose with astonishing speed. Wide streets, open-air temples, royal palaces, gardens, workshops, homes for thousands of officials and craftsmen. Unlike older cities crowded around ancient temples, Akhenaten was designed specifically for the worship of the Aten beneath the open sky. The artistic style of Egypt also changed dramatically. For centuries, pharaohs had always appeared youthful, muscular, and perfect. Akhenaten rejected these traditions. Royal statues suddenly displayed elongated faces, narrow shoulders, wide hips, long fingers, rounded stomachs. Some historians suggest this reflected a symbolic artistic style. Others have proposed medical explanations. No consensus exists, yet one fact is undeniable. Ancient Egyptian art had never looked like this before. Royal family scenes became surprisingly intimate. Instead of formal ceremonies, artists depicted Akhenaten, Queen Nefertiti, and their daughters embracing beneath the rays of the Aten. Children played. Parents smiled. The royal family kissed their daughters. These deeply personal scenes remain unique in Egyptian history. They reveal a side of royal life rarely shown before or after Akhenaten's reign. Among the most famous figures of this period was Queen Nefertiti. Her elegant limestone bust, discovered in 1912, has become one of the world's most recognizable works of ancient art. Yet her true fate remains one of archaeology's greatest mysteries. Some scholars believe she briefly ruled Egypt after Akhenaten's death. Others think she disappeared from history entirely. A few even suggest she may have ruled under another royal name. The evidence remains incomplete. The mystery continues. Then, almost as suddenly as the revolution had begun, it started to collapse. Akhenaten died after ruling for approximately 17 years. His successors struggled to maintain his religious reforms. Political instability spread. Foreign territories rebelled. Egypt's influence weakened. The old gods waited patiently. A young boy soon inherited the throne. His name was Tutankhamun. But within only a few years, everything changed. The royal court abandoned Akhenaten. The temples of Ammon reopened. Traditional religious ceremonies returned. Even the king changed his own name. Tutankhamun became Tutankhamun, the living image of Ammon. The old religion had returned. Although Tutankhamun ruled for only about 9 years, his name became more famous than almost any other pharaoh. Not because of military victories, not because of monumental architecture, but because of an extraordinary discovery made over 3,000 years later. In November 1922, British archaeologist Howard Carter uncovered a sealed doorway inside the Valley of the Kings. Behind it lay something no archaeologist expected to find, a royal tomb that had remained almost untouched since antiquity. When Carter first looked inside, he was asked if he could see anything. His famous reply became legendary. Yes, wonderful things. More than 5,000 objects filled the tomb. Golden chariots, jewelry, weapons, furniture, statues, musical instruments, clothing, food, even delicate flowers left during the funeral over 3,000 years earlier. At the center rested 3 magnificent coffins. The innermost was made of solid gold. Inside lay the mummy of Tutankhamun, protected by the iconic golden funerary mask that has become one of history's greatest treasures. Soon another legend captured the world's imagination: the curse of the pharaoh. After several people connected to the excavation died over the following years, newspapers claimed the tomb carried a supernatural curse. Stories spread across the globe: ancient revenge, forbidden chambers, hidden magic. Yet modern historians have found no convincing evidence supporting these dramatic tales. Most deaths can be explained naturally. The curse became famous, not because it was true, but because people wanted to believe it. Today, Tutankhamun remains one of the most recognizable figures from the ancient world. Ironically, the boy king who accomplished relatively little during his lifetime became immortal through archaeology. His tomb transformed our understanding of ancient Egypt. Yet an even greater ruler was about to ascend the throne. A warrior, a builder, a diplomat, a king whose reign lasted more than 60 years. The ancient world would know him as Ramses the Great. Ramses the Great, the greatest pharaoh who ever were gathering. Trade networks that had connected the ancient world for centuries began collapsing. Entire kingdoms vanished. Cities burned. Civilizations disappeared almost overnight. The mysterious sea peoples were coming, and with them, the beginning of Egypt's long decline. The end of ancient Egypt, the last pharaoh, and the fall of an empire. For more than 3,000 years, ancient Egypt had stood among the greatest civilizations on earth. It survived famine, civil wars, foreign invasions, religious revolutions, and the rise and fall of countless neighboring kingdoms. The pyramids still dominated the horizon. The Nile continued its eternal journey toward the Mediterranean. Temples echoed with ancient prayers. It seemed as though Egypt would last forever. But no civilization, no matter how magnificent, escapes the passage of time. After the death of Ramses the Great, Egypt slowly entered a period of decline. The empire had become enormous. Its borders stretched across thousands of kilometers. Maintaining distant territories demanded vast armies and enormous wealth. Meanwhile, powerful priests controlled immense temple estates. Regional governors gained increasing independence. The authority of the pharaoh weakened once again. The balance that had sustained Egypt for centuries began to collapse. At the same time, the ancient world itself was falling apart. Around 1200 BC, a mysterious catastrophe swept across the eastern Mediterranean. Great cities burned. Trade routes disappeared. Entire civilizations vanished within only a few decades. Among the most mysterious participants were the sea peoples. No one knows exactly where they came from. Some believe they were refugees. Others think they were pirates. Perhaps they were both. Their origins remain one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries. Wave after wave of foreign fleets attacked the Mediterranean coast. Even mighty Egypt became a target. During the reign of Ramses II, enormous naval battles erupted in the Nile Delta. Ancient reliefs carved into the walls of Medinet Habu show Egyptian archers raining arrows upon enemy ships while warriors fought hand-to-hand on crowded decks. Against overwhelming odds, Egypt achieved one of its greatest defensive victories. The sea peoples were defeated. The kingdom survived, but victory came at a terrible cost. Although Egypt had repelled the invasion, its economy never fully recovered. International trade collapsed. Gold became scarce. Food shortages returned. Workers responsible for building royal tombs went unpaid. At Deir el-Medina, archaeologists discovered records of what many historians consider the world's first documented labor strike. The craftsmen simply stopped working, not because they lacked loyalty, but because they had no food. Even the greatest empire in Africa could no longer support its own workers. As royal authority declined, the priests of Amun grew stronger than ever. Their temples owned farmland, ships, workshops, and vast treasures. In some regions, the high priest of Amun exercised more real power than the pharaoh himself. Egypt slowly divided between competing centers of authority. Political unity faded. Dynasties rose and fell with increasing speed. Foreign rulers sensed opportunity. The first major conquest came from the south. The kingdom of Kush, centered in Nubia, invaded Egypt and established the 25th dynasty. Ironically, these Nubian kings deeply admired Egyptian culture. They restored temples, revived ancient traditions, built pyramids of their own. Far from destroying Egyptian civilization, they became some of its most devoted protectors. History is rarely as simple as conqueror and conquered. Then came the Assyrians. Unlike previous invaders, the Assyrian Empire possessed one of the most powerful armies the ancient world had ever seen. Their soldiers marched into Egypt during the 7th century BC. Cities fell. Thebes was sacked. Royal treasures disappeared. For the first time in centuries, Egypt had become merely another province caught in the struggles of larger empires. A few generations later, another conqueror arrived. The Persian Empire, led by Cambyses I, defeated the last native Egyptian rulers. Egypt became a satrapy of the largest empire the world had yet seen. Although occasional rebellions briefly restored independence, Persian rule repeatedly returned. The age of powerful native pharaohs was nearing its end. Then, in 332 BC, a young Macedonian king entered Egypt. His name was Alexander the Great. Unlike many conquerors before him, Alexander was welcomed as a liberator. The Egyptians declared him the legitimate pharaoh. He visited the famous Oracle of Amun at Siwa Oasis, where priests reportedly proclaimed him the son of the god. Before leaving Egypt, Alexander founded a new city on the Mediterranean coast, Alexandria. It would soon become one of the greatest centers of knowledge in human history. After Alexander's death, one of his generals, Ptolemy, seized Egypt and founded the Ptolemaic dynasty. For nearly 3 centuries, Greek rulers governed as pharaohs. They adopted Egyptian customs, built magnificent temples, supported ancient religious traditions. Yet Greek language and culture spread throughout the kingdom. Egypt had entered a new age, a blend of two civilizations. Among the Ptolemies, one queen would become legendary. Her name was Cleopatra V, highly educated and fluent in multiple languages. Cleopatra proved to be one of Egypt's most brilliant diplomats. She formed alliances with Julius Caesar and later Mark Antony, hoping to preserve Egypt's independence as Rome expanded across the Mediterranean. But Rome had already become too powerful. In 31 BC, the decisive Battle of Actium changed history forever. The combined fleets of Cleopatra and Mark Antony faced the forces of Octavian, the future Emperor Augustus. The battle ended in disaster. Their alliance collapsed. A year later, Alexandria surrendered. Both Antony and Cleopatra died shortly afterward. Ancient tradition tells that Cleopatra ended her life through the bite of an Egyptian cobra. Modern historians continue debating whether that famous story is true. The mystery endures. With Cleopatra's death, the age of the pharaohs came to an end. Egypt became a They marvel at monuments built thousands of years before Rome even existed. They wonder how such extraordinary achievements were possible. Perhaps that is ancient Egypt's greatest legacy, not simply its pyramids or its pharaohs, but its ability to inspire wonder across thousands of years. Empires rise, empires fall, but greatness can become immortal. The story of ancient Egypt may have ended, but its legacy will live forever.